in that particular well which we are now tapping, Mr. President? Yung about to come to its end of life,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes. So drilling of these two wells, which is intended to commence in 2025, will start producing gas in 2026. And this will increase the Malampaya gas supply by 30 to 50% and extend its life to 5 to 10%. So it's also a
In
good
volume,
news.
ma'am. Is there a
volume.
scientific in volume? Volume ata pag measured yan eh.
Yes. I actually thought that that would make more sense because to me, I mean, it's a huge number which I cannot visualize. The number is 290 billion cubic feet of gas. His Honor is a mathematician. He can probably visualize that better than me.
Sige po, that's at any rate, that's the estimate of the
Yes, Mr.
scientists.
President.
So,
It's called the Malampaya Phase 4
phase
project.
4, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so, as to potential sources of natural gas, meron na po bang mga pag-aaral ang ating mga scientists and other experts?
Meron, Mr. President. We are just getting the figures from our technical panel. Okay. So, Mr. President, the most prospective basins are Northwest Palawan Basin, Southwest Palawan Basin, Sulu Sea Basin, Cagayan Basin, Visayan Basin, Central Luzon Basin, and Mindoro Cuyo Platform. So,
Okay, so these are
bago wala pa.
how detailed have been the
Sorry,
yes.
Mr. President, let me just continue. So the heading for that is the most prospective.
Yes.
Then there's a prospective basins, East Palawan Basin, Reed Bank Basin, Southeast Luzon Basin, Agusan Davao Basin, and Cotabato Basin. And then there's the frontier basins, which I'm told is the newest. Ano ba, newest in terms of
May
Wala
kopya
pang
ka?
what?
May kopya ka nun? Pakuha kang kopya.
wala pang exploration. Sorry, Mr. President. So meaning nag-umpisa na ito?
Hindi, lahat.
Okay. So for the first two categories, they were already bidded out. And then there's the frontier basin for West Luzon Basin, West Masbate, Iloilo Basin, Ilocos Basin, and Bicol Shelf Basin, not yet bidded out.
When you say bidded out for exploration po ito.
Yeah.
Exploration? Ano bang
For-
stages of exploration?
For exploration,
Ito-
yes, for
yes.
exploration. And there are bidders, Mr. President. So that
Yes.
means mag-aabala sila because they feel that there is, ayun na nga,
Pero
yung-
hit or miss yan, di ba?
correct, it's hit or miss. So they have their own means of determining what is best risk for them. And there are bidders bidding ongoing now.
Sige, wala pang good news about really hitting.
We do have good news. The good news is many participated. So that's good because these are technical investors who will not bother with us if they don't see any potential.
When will we know if a source has been confirmed, Mr. President?
Teka, when will we know? No, so once there's a winner, then that includes the timeline, right? So there will still be terms. So it's a very long process, Mr.
Yes, I know.
President. That's why I took time to include in my lengthy response to His Honor how in dire need we are to take up this process because imagine since 2019, none.
That's why I'm asking, Mr. President, yung sources of Philippine or indigenous natural gas. Because kung wala, may industry ba? Yan po ang, or there could be an industry, but it is supporting imported natural gas. That's why I hope we can get a list of all those awarded
Of course,
awarded
we will update, yes.
contracts for exploration, and then of course the areas are indicated. Sana may timeline din kung when we can find out kung confirmed, kasi all of these are suspected, of course, di ba? Siguro yung ginagamit nila kay Pastor Kibuloy na pang-detect na heartbeat, baka ganun din yung sonar yan pang-detect ng natural gas. So all of these are just suspected
So-
reserves, di ba? So sana may time, when will
Yeah,
we know
what I can tell His Honor now is this: by December, there will be an awarding for the bidders.
Yes.
And then the timeline for them to start drilling or to actually find. So they would have already started drilling and hopefully find something that is in 4 to 7 years.
Yes.
So towards the end
Sige.
of, so hopefully, siguro pinakamaaga na dyan is around 2028, 2029.
Samantala si Malampay Phase 4, when will that suspected gas supply be tapped?
Next
And-
year, Mr. President.
Next
Next
year
year already, yeah.
Sige po, kasi kung it turns out na walang gas supply, the law will only be applicable to
Imported.
Malampaya
An-
as the indigenous
Yes, for the indigenous source. But it's very unlikely that there won't be any with all those high prospective areas. They're quite confident that there will be something. And also, Mr. President, I'd like to just emphasize here precisely why I include here our studies on futures thinking so that we can really emphasize that projects like this are really for the future. Like this will not solve our brownouts tomorrow. It will not solve it in 2 years, but hopefully the next generation will thank us for the work that we're doing today. Not even the next generation, our senior years will thank our junior selves for this work, Mr. President.
But our bill also mentions aggregated gas.
Yes.
And is that defined in the bill what aggregated gas is?
Yes, we have
So
definition.
that is, to my understanding, gas which consists of indigenous Philippine natural gas mixed with natural gas from other sources outside of the Philippines. So hence imported gas. Tama po?
Yes,
That's
Mr.
aggregated
President.
gas.
Yes, aggregated gas, the definition refers to the activity of procuring indigenous natural gas, combining it with imported LNG, and selling the aggregated gas to gas buyers in the Philippines or abroad.
Yeah nga, Mr. President. So, in effect, we can say that the measure also incentivizes imported natural gas or the importation of natural gas, because when it's mixed with indigenous natural gas, it becomes aggregated gas.
Well, Mr. President, the way I answer that question is we cannot envision a future with just indigenous gas. It's not enough. I mean, I don't even know if there's a jackpot na it will be enough. It will really include. So when we hear about, I think we know that the energy sector is very competitive, but there is room for all because we do not just have one source of gas. We cannot survive on indigenous gas alone, in as much as this representation would prefer that it's all indigenous, but it can't happen. It's not going to happen. That's why this bill already foresees that we have to aggregate.
Yes, so with open eyes, we know that we are also incentivizing the importation of natural gas.
Sorry, what was the question?
I mean, it's also our intention to incentivize the importation of natural gas because we will incentivize aggregated gas. So you can only have aggregated gas if it's imported natural gas mixed with Philippine indigenous natural gas.
The way I will answer that, Mr. President, is to say that it is a priority. Indigenous gas is a priority. But we cannot survive with indigenous gas alone. So we must create that environment that is also healthy for investments in imported
Yes.
natural gas.
Yeah, good.
Well,
That's
yes.
good. At least that's made of record, Mr. President. And in our bill, we are not very specific on the proportion, no? On the proportion of the indigenous Philippine natural gas and the imported natural gas. We are not
Yeah.
specific.
We
on
are
the
not,
proportion.
Mr. President. For one, it is just this representation's style in legislation. I think it is proper to leave certain things to the implementing agencies. This representation, and I don't think, unless there's an energy expert in our midst, cannot really determine this mix, because right now, even if I ask DOE, and I've been asking them from the start, this mix would also be based on what we find out in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Let's just say, ang laki ng nakita natin. Then maybe DOA malakas ang loob and will say, baka sabihin lang, oh, habol nyo dyan. In the next 20 years, the mix should be highly skewed towards indigenous dahil eto na, may proof na tayong ganito kalaki. But I think we will pass this before we have that information. So we leave that to DOE. The most that we can do is to provide the parameters, and the parameters which include supporting all types of gases, but really prioritizing indigenous gas, Mr. President.
So just one,
And,
just one
Mr.
quick
President,
intervention again with the permission of Your Honor. So if there is now, as I perceive this coming from the line of questioning of the good minority leader, a mix incentives given to importation as well as the promotion of indigenous natural gas, would this educate me, Your Honor, imply that other sources or mixtures that would involve coal to produce synthetic gas, SNG, would probably be involved in the mix? Pag hinalo-halo na natin, makaka-produce din tayo ng synthetic gas. Because coal can be compressed and produce synthetic gas as well.
In the briefings that I have had, Mr. President, synthetic gas from coal is not included in the aggregation. So I don't know if that is something that will be considered. Since His Honor asked, I'm sure DOE will look into it, but that has not been included in the discussions, Mr. President. So on record, as of now, as of the draft here, that is not included.
Thank you.
meaning to say that when we use the phrase aggregated gas, this is natural gas.
Yes.
Yung source na lang. It's whether
Yes.
Philippine indigenous or
Imported.
Apo,
Yes.
apo. Sige po.
Yes.
Unfortunately nga, since we will now delegate to the DOE the scientific proportioning of what can be called aggregated gas, theoretically speaking, it could be anywhere from 1% Philippine natural gas to 99% imported natural gas, and that could be the aggregated gas that we are mentioning in our bill.
It could be in
It
the
could be.
worst scenario that there is no more indigenous natural gas, then that is going to be the percentage of
Right, okay.
yes.
Since we are a net importer of raw materials or raw elements for our energy needs, like coal, crude oil, natural gas. Ano pa ba? Ano pa bang iba? Ano pa bang ibang mga ano? So,
Geothermal, the different types of
Yes, the
energy
different
sources,
type of raw
geothermal, renewables.
yung mga ano, yung what we are importing, di ba? Crude oil,
Importing
crude oil, natural gas, coal.
oil and coal.
So, sige, limit ourselves
Yun lang.
to the three for our discussion. We are ending up incentivizing natural gas.
2070.
There must be a reason. Do we consider natural gas to be the, quotation marks, cleanest among the three that I have mentioned?
Yes, Mr. President. During the interpellation with Senator Joel, we read into the record UNDP findings that per molecule of natural gas, here, I have it. 1 molecule of natural gas produces 1 molecule of carbon, whereas other fossil fuels, 1 molecule of fossil fuel produces more than 1 molecule of carbon.
So, ang pag-measure ng whether you are a dirtier source of energy, we count the carbon molecules released by the by the process.
Yes, Mr. President.
What do we call that scientific who invented the test po na yan po ang ating, that's how we measure whether it's dirtier or cleaner. Ano po tawag diyan, so we can also research on that, Mr. President?
Just give me the statement of, no, but what is
Anong tawag? The carbon molecule. The carbon molecule test. Ano yun? Pero anong dirty, anong test mo sabi?
correct? Pero yung question niya is,
Natural
what
gas.
is
Tama.
our basis to say that the measurement of the coal is what
Greenhouse gas?
matters when you're determining environmental standards? Coal ba or some other kinds of emissions?
Sige, talaga. May question.
I'm sure it's basic, but tama naman yung question niya. You can just find it. Mr. President, we'll put it on record in my notes. I just have here that it's from UNDP.
UNDP.
But we
Sige
will,
po.
we have
Sige
here.
po.
According to UNEP, sorry, not UNDP, UNEP, United Nations Environment Program.
Up.
Natural gas is a cleaner fuel in the sense that burning it produces fewer conventional air pollutants,
Apo.
like sulfur dioxide and particulates than burning coal or oil. A main factor to consider is the characteristic of the fuel, the combustion technology, how well equipment is maintained and operated. In general, burning natural gas also produces less carbon dioxide per unit of energy. So yeah, so it's carbon and also other pollutants like sulfur dioxide and particulates.
Sige po. What is natural gas, Mr. President? What is it? What is the molecule which primarily comprises natural gas? Why it has become a desired source of energy?
Well,
Is it because it's methane?
yes, Mr. President, in page 5, line 15, we define natural gas as gas containing primarily a mixture of methane, ethane, propane, and butane with small amounts of heavier hydrocarbons and some impurities consistent with PNS or other applicable internationally accepted industry standards.
Thank you. That's I see it also.
Yes.
Page 5, subparagraph O, lines 15 to 18. But for those who are concerned about greenhouse gases and which are blamed to be causing climate change, if they now use that standard or that test, some may even claim that natural gas is dirtier than the other two other sources that we have mentioned, because precisely it will release, the processing of the natural gas will release more methane into the atmosphere, Mr. President. So has the sponsor encountered such an argument or a point of view, Mr. President?
So it also, so that's where the equipment comes in, or no? Okay, so Mr. President, that could be accurate if there is no burning. No burning. But if it is burned completely, then there is none or there is less emission. There is only one molecule. So this goes to the power plants having state-of-the-art equipment, well-kept, well-maintained. I think at some point I mentioned that because that will also ensure the cleaner. We are not saying this is the cleanest, but cleaner.
Yes, it's a matter of, sometimes it's a matter of point of view. What standard or test or what is our concern, di ba? From the air pollutants test, it may be the cleanest, but from the greenhouse gas test, it may not be the cleanest. So with the response of our sponsor, Mr. President, which is highly scientific, may we request for more time to also read on this subject matter. We can really research if there is an effective, believable capturing mechanism already in natural gas power plants where methane emissions are captured and then neutralized, Mr. President. So,
Mr. President, let me just explain.
yes.
The concern of the concern that His Honor raised, the greenhouse effect, would not happen. I'm told, I'm not an expert, I'm told it will not happen because industry practice is not to allow the venting. The venting is yung palalabasin. Hindi naman ganun ang industry practice. So hindi naman mangyayari yun unless sobrang pabaya at hindi talaga sumusunod sa regulation. So yes, in theory, there may be a detrimental greenhouse effect with the natural gas, but if we follow industry standards, that will not happen.
Yun na nga, ang tanong ko, how? What is in place? What scientific achievements are there that we are preventing now the escape of a gas? Ang hirap po yun, ha? It's so difficult to prevent the escape of a gas. So, I'm sure that is the claim. Pero if the sponsor can give us time also to read about this latest technology, Mr. President, and if we find it to be believable, and siguro if the sponsor can point to us, ano po ang pinaka-model na plant, anong bansa para ma-research na rin po namin.
Wala talaga naka-escape. How about the imported? Yeah. So actually, Mr. President, this is precisely the kind of investments needed for natural gas. And if you look at Malampaya, it's a closed circuit system using these pipelines that is so intricate that there really is no leakages. Because if that happens, then that is really a violation. So that is the system. It is really not meant to have any leakages.
Di ba, Mr. President, hindi naman ako rin expert dito, pero parang logic lang gagamitin natin. Pero di ba may treaty, siguro the climate change treaty, Paris Agreement. Di ba mayroong mga point system yan, you are given some credit, etc. If this Malampaya is really a closed system and we are not releasing anything to contribute to climate change, are we being given credits or points, bonus points for this, Mr. President? May scoring system din yan eh. So is the Philippines being credited because we have such a foolproof closed system, Mr. President?
I can find out, Mr. President.
Siguro,
Yeah.
let's find out. Can I, if with the permission of the sponsor, can I suspend my interpellation so we can read more about the subject matter, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Sir President, just
Yes. But just to add to the discussion for the record, we have provisions on the establishment of standards on gas quality, facility, and the code of practice. And we also have a technical committee that will be created to ensure that all of this is complied with. The technical committee would be composed of academe, trade and industry, professional associations, research associations, and so on and so forth.
Kaya ang tanong ko nga, are we now being recognized internationally? Because of this, now we have such a good system. May mga ganun, may
Yeah.
di ba? We're given a credit, we're given points. So are there good news that we are being internationally recognized? So
Because I remember, Mr. President, I had a team visit me a year ago, just like the stock exchange, discussing with me the opportunity for us to come up with this carbon crediting system. We don't have that in the Philippines. So
Correct.
there's no means, we did not create that system for us to get points. Yeah, we don't have that. But in the case of Malampaya, that they have received awards, and this is the Upstream Asset of the Year award, which they have received 2 times for top quality production. What is that?
May we know who granted the award, Mr. President?
Who's the award from?
Who gave the award, Mr. President? Local. Local lang, Mr. President.
Shell. So globally.
Shell.
Shell, yeah.
Shell, okay, Shell, which is
Global,
involved in the
in
industry.
all over, yes.
Which is involved in the industry.
All over the world.
Same industry. So with that, Mr. President, if with the permission of the sponsors, this representation would request a suspension of my interpellation.
Thank you, Mr.
you.
President. Thank you for taking the time to study and ask these questions, which are also helpful to the sponsor. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. President, cognizant of the request of the minority leader to study the measure further, specifically as to the leakages during extraction and transportation of natural gas, specifically methane, I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2793.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, consideration of said measure is hereby suspended.
1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session is suspended. Resume.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2575 under Committee Report number 211. This is the bill on the basic education and early child care and development alignment. Okay, so move, Mr. President.
Is there objection? There been a resumption of the consideration of the said bill under the aforementioned committee report is now in order.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status is that we have closed the period of interpellation, and I move to open the period of amendments and recognize the sponsor, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Hearing objection, the motion is approved. Senator Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. President, in accordance with Rule 14, Section 82, Paragraph 2 of the Rules of the Senate, sorry, let me repeat this, Mr. President. In accordance with Rule 29, Section 82, Paragraph 2 of the Rules of the Senate, this representation seeks to amend by substitution Senate Bill number 2575 under Committee Report number 211. This amendment by substitution seeks to address the policy concerns and legal issues pertaining to the bill and incorporates the individual amendments of the minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel, Senator Lauren Legarda, Senator Joel Villanueva, and the EDCOM 2. With that, Mr. President, and with the permission of the body, I move that we amend the bill by deleting the entire text after the enacting clause and replacing the same with the provisions contained in the proposed amendment by substitution as filed with the Legislative Bills and Index Service and distributed through email to the offices of senators earlier today, September 4, 2024. Further, I move that the text thereof be considered as read into the record. So move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none to the proposed amendment, amend by substitution. There being none, the motion is approved. Majority Leader? Meron pa.
Mr. President, the chairperson would like to propose some individual amendments. I move that he be recognized likewise again.
Senator Gatchalian, the sponsor, is recognized.
Substitute.
Amendment.
Paano kung mag-amendment ba sa tingin tapos title lang. Sa isip ko paano mag-amendment. Title lang.
Title lang.
Substitute.
Title lang.
Just the title. Ako din.
Ano ka? May mag-interculate pa ba?
Title lang.
Spell muna.
Title lang. Question eh. By substitution. Hindi mo pa namin.
Session suspended.
Suspend.
Session suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2575. So move, Mr. President.
Is there objection? There being none, motion is approved.
1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session is suspended.